Welcome to CAS 133, Basic Computer Skills, Microsoft Office, Columbia Gorge Community College, The Dalles, Oregon, Linda Hughitt, instructor. We're going to be taking a tour of the CAS 133 Moodle to help you get started for this term. When you log in, you're going to see a bunch of stuff at this side, and these things can be minimized or maximized or even sent away. I get rid of most of it. The one I do keep and I find useful is the activities, and I can send it right back over there. So feel free to put whatever's helpful there. You can have one for my courses so you can get between your classes, or the calendar, or navigation. Really, whatever you think will work the best for you, you're welcome to put there or remove. Then after you arrive and have set this up the way you'd like it, go right down the middle and read your way through it, because that's going to tell you about the information you need for the class. I also ask that you use my email address. It's located there as well as at the top, and throughout the class and other locations you'll find it instead of using the Moodle messaging. I've not had very good success with that. Plus, I'm on the go a lot, and so I'm often doing email replies by phone or by iPad, and it's a lot more challenging to do the Moodle messaging that way. Plus, I don't get a lot of them. They just don't ever seem to show up. So the best way is to use email as requested in the directions. Also, just another little heads up, I try to be as accurate as possible when typing on those silly little small devices, but I can tell you right now that my accuracy rate is not very good. So in an effort to try to get you answers back to your questions as quick as I can, you will probably occasionally get some typos. If I use one of the smaller devices, there might be quite a few of them, to be honest. But I do try to proofread, but on the small screens, I don't even always spot them. So please humor me a bit there. Then, moving on down, you're going to get the information you need for the class. You need to start with the starts here, and that's probably where you're at right now, and just kind of work your way right down the page. As you've completed things, you will get check marks showing up. Some of the things that all of these are required, they should all be opened and read carefully. Some of the ones I want to highlight tonight as I make this video for you will be your syllabus. This is being opened in Google Chrome. It's the browser I use. If you're using a different browser, say Internet Explorer or maybe Firefox, you may want to right-click, save link as. It'll bring up the box and allow you to put it on your desktop or your flash drive or wherever you'd like to save it. If you need a printed copy for any reason, like a VOHAB or whatever it is, there you go. You can print a copy from here. Here's your information about your syllabus. Information in here is very important for you to know how to log into Moodle. Again, the email address shows up again. Talks about the requirements of what you have to do to be considered participating in the class. And one of those things is you should be logging in the first day of the term, part of the college policy. And you need to complete some work by the Thursday of the term, that first week of the term. I will show you what that work is, and it needs to be done by 8 o'clock Pacific Coast time, which means that if you happen to be a student taking this class from another college or another state, do your time zone conversions to make sure you've met that requirement. Instructor information, again, my email address. The college policy is 48 hours. I don't think I have ever taken 48 hours to reply to an email. You should expect a reply within 24. It would be very unusual for it to go any longer. Most times it will be more frequent than that, but do not assume, which means do not wait to the last few hours to do your project and then get stuck and hope that I'm going to be online right then and able to reply. I work 3 other jobs. This is only part-time, so that means I may or may not even be working on this right at that time. So please do your work early in the week. There is tutoring. We'll talk more about that. Your outcomes for the course, logging into Moodle and the no-show policy, your class expectations, late work policy. All of this is mentioned in here, and it's elaborated on in Moodle, which we'll be continuing to look at. The ADA statement, academic honesty, lots of important things in here for you to be looking at. And one of the important ones I do want to showcase for a second so that there's not a confusion come near the end of the term is that you are required to complete one project with a passing grade of at least a C to pass the class. in each area. We will be working in Word, so that means you have to have one Word project that has at least a C on it, one PowerPoint project, one Excel project. There is only one Access project. At least you are going to have to attempt the Access project, make reasonably good progress on it. Otherwise, you will not pass the class. So you cannot skip, say, all the PowerPoint projects and go, well, I did everything else and that's only 2 projects, so it shouldn't cost me that many points. I should be okay. No, not okay. Also, if you do not do the final project, you will not get anything above a C. It would only be very extenuating circumstances. I think the only time I've actually granted that was the young lady that had a baby prematurely and was born the last 3 days of the class. That one I did give on. I did get baby pictures to look at too, but bottom line is don't expect that to be waived very easily. Oh, gives you some ideas on the syllabus that's important to read and know. What else do you need to know? Well, the grading rubric is a really important one to know. That kind of gives you an idea of what I'm looking at for grading. If it matches exactly, if it's on time and submitted the way it's supposed to be submitted, you should have full credit. If you have some small minor errors, it's usually 1 point per error, but it's still turned in on time and correctly. If you have one more of a more major error, it'll be a 2-point loss, or it could be turned in during the 1-week grace period. We'll talk about a little bit more when we talk about late work policy. And if it's turned in during that week, it's a loss of 2 points. It drops you 1 full grade. Any formatting errors could be factored into the late work penalty, because if it's late enough, it has to be turned in by email attachment. Probably the highest you're going to get is a C. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that during the late work policy. Any error that's so large it sort of defeats the purpose of doing the project. For example, doing Excel and you don't use the formulas, which is the main purpose of learning to use Excel, and you didn't do it, that's going to be an immediate 50% off, plus any other point losses that might be going with other types of mistakes. Anything that has a D or an F on it, which is 13 points and under, can be redone during that grace period, which means that if you're late turning it in, it's scored in the following week, you lose that ability to correct it. So it's really important to get work done on time. For forms, basically you need to do a thoughtful reply using standard English, correct spelling, capitals, etc. One of my pet peeves is people referring to themselves as I with a lowercase I. It needs to be a capital to be proper standard English. So now that I've told you that's a pet peeve, please make sure you press that little capital key when you're referring to yourself as an I. It will help your scores and avoid my frustrations. 100 or more words are required. If you fall under that, you may or may not get full credit. In fact, you will not get full credit. How much credit you get will become the question. If you do not do the post, if you're off topic, if you've done it in texting language or you've done it with grammar and English that's obviously not of the quality that could be taken out into the business world or into, college level classes, then you may get a 0 for that post. You're to do a reply to another student's post, at least one other is required. It needs to be a thoughtful reply to the question and to their reply. Again, it needs to follow the same standard English and needs to be at least 50 words. Things like, yeah, I agree, me too, dude, cool idea, wow, I hadn't thought of that. No, those are not credit-worthy replies. They're well under 50 words on top of that, and they're worth 0 points. The idea behind a forum is a class discussion. It's hard to have a discussion when the only reply was, yo, dude, good job. How do you reply to that? You don't. So that does not add to a discussion, therefore no credit. So let's talk about the late work policy because we just kind of touched on that a couple of times. Obviously, you should be turning work in on time. That is important. Forums cannot be done late. If you don't make the forum deadline, you don't get the points. There are enough forums throughout the term that can automatically drop you another whole grade if you're not doing those pieces of the assignments. So, all work is due Saturday night at midnight. If it's just a tad bit late, like between Saturday night and early Sunday morning, like when humans are getting up to look at things, I probably will not grade it down. If it's later than that, like mid-morning Sunday, Sunday afternoon, Monday, Tuesday, it's going to be graded as late work. The forms won't be able to be done. You will have missed out on that. If it's not in on that Saturday, you have the following week to continue to turn it in during. It will drop 2 points, drop a full grade. I may only drop at 1 point between being turned in and when I grade it, but once I start grading, it's the full 2 points if I have to go back and grade it later. There are very few times that actually comes into play, but that might be a safety measure for some of you that are just slow at getting it uploaded. Maybe you have a slow internet. You just don't wait to the last minute. It's the moral of the story. But work submitted during that bonus week will drop 1 full grade. That's 2 points. Once the link closes, the work won't be accepted. It's done. You missed out. Out of luck. Sorry. Unless there's some extenuating circumstances. And they have to be pretty extenuating. I have unfortunately had a term that I had about 4 people that had truly extenuating circumstances happening. That term, if it does happen, you need to contact me. You need to be real upfront with it. Don't just tell me, oh, I had an emergency. Yeah, well, we all have them too. Whatever it was, you know. If it's something very serious, then you need to let me know what it is and be prepared to provide proof if I ask for it, which I may or may not, just depends on the situation. Obviously, if this is like tonight's the closing of the term and I suddenly end up in the emergency room and I petition tomorrow saying, I didn't get my work done, I was in the emergency room last night, you're not going to get an extension. You've already had 2 full weeks to complete that assignment, and being in the emergency room the night it was due means you waited to the very, 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 very last minute, which is a bad plan. Now, there are extenuating circumstances that may, in fact, allow an extension, and I will accept it then as late work. You have to have my permission before you submit it. If you just send it to me and hope I'm going to take pity on you, no. So you've contacted me, you've got permission to submit it, you're going to expect a C on it. There may be an occasional situation that I will waive that, but that's the normal expectation. But a C is at least going to keep you from failing the class if everything else is turned in. So you've got it permission, you're sending it to me as an email attachment. You need to tell me you are sending an attachment. Otherwise, I may not open it. Therefore, you don't get a grade. You need to make the title of your email late work. Not, oh, I'm, sending an email about something. Just follow the directions. Call it late work because I use it to sort it into the late work folder. Once it's in the late work folder, if we've lost something, we cannot find it, you say, you've sent it, I don't have it, I can search by that title and find the title of late work. Therefore, I can find it if it just went to a weird folder somehow by accident. If you don't use that title, I have no way to search for that email. I can get 100 emails in a week. In fact, some days I can get 50 in a day. So if you don't follow the directions, I don't promise to grade it. Then you need to watch for my reply the next time I grade. I grade once a week after the work is due. In a term where you're in the class and it's the only class I'm teaching, I'll get around to it usually fairly quickly. If you're in a term where I'm teaching 3 or 4 classes, you may be the last class graded and it'll be later in the week. I will also just work on it here and there as I get time. I may grade 5, 10 papers and need to do something else, and I'll come back and grade some more later. I may grade 1 assignment, but not the next assignment. Please don't email me and ask me about it. I'm well aware where I am on my grading. I'll get it as fast as I can get it, and you will get an email post in the instructor's forum that says grading is done for this week. When I post that, it says grading is done for this week. If you've submitted late work that week, you should have gotten an email reply to that work during part of that grading process that says, you've got a whatever grade it is, and it's been sent to you. That is your only proof of grading. It will not be put into Moodle. If I had to go back and enter it into Moodle, I would not even accept late work, period, regardless of your circumstance or situation. So it will not show up in Moodle. Please don't ask me about it. However, you should get an email reply, and you need to keep that for your records. If you do not get a reply, that means I did not grade it, which means I most likely didn't get it, or it got lost somewhere in the sorting. And I'm going to need to search for it. If you've gone through and you've got that next grading's been done notice, please let me know. It's much easier to find something that's been missing a week than find something that's been missing 10 weeks. And then you need to get busy on the current work so you don't have any more late work. Having the first thing late does not excuse you to have the next thing late. Please don't throw extra questions in or anything into the late work email, because I will not open it until I'm grading, and if you needed to know something, you're not going to know it for a week, possibly. It's going to be sort of useless at that point. So please make sure you've read the late work policy, you know what it is, so there's no surprises. The extra credit information is also in here if you're interested in doing some extra credit. Here's the instructor's form for you to be going in and checking. I do ask that you do not start your own topics in here, that you only reply to any of my questions or my comments there. The coffee shop is for you. Now, these are public forums in the sense that they are available to anyone in the class. This is not a place to ask questions about the grading of your assignment and your concerns about why it was graded the way it was. That's a personal question, needs to be done by email, not in a public forum. But this doesn't even have to relate to classwork. If you need a ride to the college and you're hoping somebody might be going for one of your face-to-face classes and you're trying to arrange that, feel free to throw it into the coffee shop. Don't ask me questions there because I do not monitor that closely. CAS offers tutoring each term. The updated information will be there each term. If you are getting stuck or having problems, please check in on that. This section, this is basically other support for you. Classes are live. They are changed. Things do move. I already see something that I'm going to move before anybody gets logged in. So there are things in here for you to view and see, and it may change between this video and the course shell you're actually in, but it will be similar. The basic structures will be the same. When you log in, you're going to see that it says there's this beginning required work to be done by Thursday at 8 p.m. I've got it yellow highlighted in red. Hopefully that makes it obvious enough. You need to come in here. You need to read the material. And then you need to go in and log in to take this test. Right here is your link. You can do the pre-test. There's some reading to do. Here's your post-test. I grade the post-test unless it's the only one. Some students only send me the pre-test, and if that's what you send, that's what you get a grade on. When you go in to do the test, you're going to answer your questions. And then you need to put your full name in here. If your name is Sam Smith, don't tell me it's being sent to me by Bubba. I don't know who Bubba is, and you will not get credit. Also, don't just tell me it's being sent to me by Sam. I don't know who's Sam. What Sam? If I have 60, 70, 80 students in multiple classes, there's no way to know which Sam this was, and everybody has to do it in all the classes for CAS OS classes. Also, if you're taking 2 classes that are mine in any one term, you only have to do it one time. You don't have to take it multiple times. So if you're taking 2 different ones that I teach, just one time does it. You do need to put your email in. That's your copy being sent to you so that you can forward it to me should I not get your copy. But you need to confirm it, obviously. But then you need to put, yeah, I know, it doesn't like that. You need to put my email in. Pretend this optional isn't there. Cross it out in your mind because you need to send that to me. Otherwise, how am I going to know what your grade is if you don't give me a copy of it? It's a 0 otherwise. Okay. Then you have to put the name of your college in. You have to do all these little words at the bottom that let it know that you are not a robot out there doing it, and hit submit. Now, those 2 both have to be done before 8 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday, the first week of the term. If they're not done, you're most likely to be dropped. Here's the second part of that. You need to go in and take this test. We've had some problems with some cheating, Don't want any confusion about what is cheating and what is not cheating. What do you have to do? What can you not do? What is allowed? And you need to go in and take this test. I need to have both of those by Thursday night at 8 o'clock. If not, I'm going to assume you're not serious about taking the class, and I'm going to drop you that night per CGCC's policy for no-shows. Just doing a forum post, just logging in is not enough. And typically I've found that students that I've kind of like hedged and let do that don't succeed in the class. I'm really not doing you a favor. So once you're dropped, you're dropped. That's the college policy. I know people have begged and cried and gone to see student services, etc., etc. And every time that I've given in and let students in classes, I've regretted it. It's not in their benefit. They're usually not successful. They end up dropping later in the term, or they end up not passing the class. So it's going to be very difficult to get a, oh, right, fine, I'll let you back in type of thing happening. You're much better off just doing what needs to be done, because then you're showing me that you are involved, you are active, and you do plan to be participating in the class. There's an introduce yourself forum, and when you go into the forum, you're going to read about it, and you're going to do a reply. Now this one's already been done once because I made this video twice. So you're going to go in here and you're going to hit reply to someone else's forum and do your reply to them. On the first one, it's going to say, you know, add a new discussion, and you're going to do that as well. So you're going to add a new discussion, and then you're going to do a reply. Now let's see if I can delete these. I think I can't because I'm in a student mode. So those are in there, and those need to be done each week. So that gets you started for the class. The checkbox shows you the required. You must do those, and it will check it off as you complete them. The optionals do not have the checkbox. Use them as needed. Down here, if you are having problems, this is the tech help that the college offers with Ron Watrous, who's based in the Columbia Gorge Community College Library on the Dalles campus, and he will help with Moodle or really basically any other computer techie type thing that he can. He's a really good person about that. He is part of the IT tech department, so he is pretty much able to help work around a lot of those issues if you're having some really basic computer things. Obviously, you're going to have a laptop to carry it to him probably, but even on a desktop, he could show you on his computer how to get logged into something or how to download something if you're having problems. You do need to have Acrobat Reader, Adobe Acrobat Reader. Most machines come with it installed. If for some reason yours doesn't have it, you can go to, I think it's www.adobe.com and download the Acrobat Reader. You will need to have that. If you have a documented disability, i.e. you have the paperwork that maybe was in high school or from your doctor or wherever along the line, and you have that, you need to, and choose to, go to the disabilities office and get it on file. When it's on file, they will notify me, and then we'll go from there with whatever we need to do to make the adaptations and modifications that are necessary. But understand it starts from the time I get that. So if you wait a half a term, you're failing the class, and then you go up to the office and they send it to me, all the old stuff isn't retroactive. It is from the date it is filed with the college and sent to me. So that's something that needs to be done right at the beginning of the term, not waiting until you're into trouble already. Hopefully this will help you get kicked off for a good start for the term.